I guess there's probably going to be a 15-second delay, huh?
Yeah.
Either way, oh, let me pause on this side so I don't get feedback. All right. Well, welcome everyone. This is my first live, really live. So tonight we're going to be talking with Mike VanDuzee from Keep On Growing, and he runs a hydroponics channel there on YouTube and teaches you how to grow your own food at home, which I think is something a lot of people out there in the world need right now. So why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, Mike?
Hey, yeah, cool. Thanks, Chris, for having me on. Appreciate it. And I have a hydroponics channel. It's called Keep On Growing with Mike VanDuzee. And basically, it's just teaching people how to like grow some of their own food, basically like leafy greens. You know, we go into like tomatoes and peppers and different things like that. But basically, it's just doing it like as cheap and as easy as possible so that, you know, almost anyone anywhere can do it. If anybody's ever looked into hydroponics or aquaponics or anything, they know there's a little bit of a learning curve and it tends to be a little bit expensive. So it's fascinating stuff, but some people don't want to try it because of those two things. So I try to make it inexpensive and try to make it as easy as possible so everyone can at least get their feet wet, you know, give it a little try. Then if you like it, then, you know, you can step up from there.
All right, all right. Well, for everyone who's just kind of joining now and isn't really familiar, you know, with the process or what hydroponics is, you want to give them a little rundown on, you know, what hydroponics is at its core?
Yeah, basically it's just growing in water and it's a nutrient solution and with no soil. So it's really cool because basically most hydroponics generally use about only 10% of what a traditional garden will take. And that's because most of your water is not like getting lost into the soil. Like when you water your garden, some gets lost to evaporation. The plants get
Mm-hmm.
some, and then the rest, you know, seeps into the soil like deep where the roots can't get it. So a lot of your water gets, you know, which isn't bad. It goes back into nature and part of the water cycle. But you can go through thousands and thousands of gallons of water just watering your garden, whereas you know most of the hydroponics you put it in there and it'll last for months and months just get
Right.
recycled. And so basically, all the plants, the stuff that it needs, the nutrients, your NPK, which a lot of people know what those are. You need that for like a traditional garden. For hydroponics, there's no soil, so there's a lot of other things going on in the soil. Your microbes, and it's a living organism. All of that stuff, which they call the micronutrients, and that aren't present, just in an NPK fertilizer. So you got to kind of use hydroponic nutrients, and that's basically what your nutrient solution is. So you take all of that into account, and basically you got the liquid with all the nutrients that the plant needs. It just doesn't have the soil, and you can grow
Right.
your plants in it.
So, what would be some of the best plants you could grow in hydro? Or maybe let's rephrase that question. What would be the easiest thing for people just starting out with hydro to grow for a food source?
Basically, just any like your leafy greens, and especially in the systems that I'm teaching, like the off grid, where there's no pumps and everything, because most hydroponics starts out with some kind of pump to aerate the water, and then it recirculates. It's got pumps, right? And uh, some people that gets them because it can get clogged up. There's like little tubes and filters and everything, and if you're not on top of it all the time, it can clog up, and in your system, everything dies in it, and it's a little disheartening. But I teach like
Right.
off grid, so people don't have to worry about it so much. So you're not, out there every day having to keep an eye on it. So your system's static; it's not moving. Your water, so basically you're going to need something that's fast growing, and leafy greens do really well. Things like back behind me, I got pak choi. If you look at my channel, I've got like pak choi just growing like in a bunch of videos. That grows really, really well as like a cut and come again crop where you can come and just pull some of the leaves off the bottom, keep it growing, and then until it bolts. But
Right. Just or spinach or um,
mhm.
arugula.
arugula, any kind, like your lettuces. Well, if you're in a cooler climate, like some people are up north, and it's just, I think some people just said they got some flurries of snow like yesterday. But it's going to be cooling off, so they'll have a little cool weather. They'll be able to grow stuff like spinach, lettuce. Um, Down here, I grow lettuces that are cut and come again, where it'll grow kind of like a leaf lettuce, black seeded Samson, just something where you can come and pick off the leaves, not like a head of lettuce like you're used to, like iceberg. So anything that's kind of leafy green you can do. And if you want to step it up from there, we grow tomatoes too, and you can grow. Some people growing cucumbers, squash, different things like that. But it's going to take a little more care because it takes a lot longer. So you're going to have to keep an eye on your nutrient solution.
Sure. Well, since you just said that, so what does it take to set up your nutrient solution in your hydro setup, and what are your ratios, I guess, of nutrients to water?
Now, what I'm using for my system like this, and we call it like the Kratky method because this professor in Hawaii, Dr. Kratky, figured it out. And the static system, and people have experimented, and some people use different solutions. What I found was I used Master Blend, and it's a tomato formula. It's 4-18-38, and we mix it with calcium nitrate and Epsom salt that you just get at the local drugstore. You can get Epsom salt, at the nursery or Home Depot and that, but the same thing at the drugstore. It's just Epsom salt, and we mix it like per 5 gallons. We mix 10 grams of your calcium nitrate, your Master Blend, and 5 grams of your Epsom salt. And basically that's it. You mix it in 5 gallons and then just put that into, your containers. And if you look at my channel, you see we grow them, and I've converted downspouts, that you can grow in any type of container. We've done a lot in like recycled milk containers. If anybody doesn't want to go spend money on stuff, then you're recycling something instead of going in the garbage. You grow a plant in it. Some of the other nutrients that are hydroponic ones, I've used a couple, but they tend to be a little more expensive. And like it says, I'm trying to make it as cheap as possible. I don't want to spend a lot of money to grow a head of lettuce. So basically, as far as cost wise, the Master Blends worked real well for me for like 8 years. So I just continue using it.
Pennies on the dollar, I guess. Since you were talking about your setup, one thing that I really wanted to touch on, because you're doing something super unique with setting up these non-circulating hydro systems and using a downspout to a gutter system to modify that. Why don't you tell everyone like how that is? And I just put a link into the chat for your YouTube channel, so if anyone wants to like go check that out. He makes or teaches you as well how to make these really unique little hydro setups out of downspouts from gutters. So
yeah, really, really simple. The concept is back. If you look into hydroponics, when you go in the grocery store, you see hydroponic lettuce.
Yep.
Most of that's grown on a raft system, and that's the nutrient solution we were talking about. Basically, they have this huge, like, pond full of it. Not a pond, but a big vat in a greenhouse, and they put styrofoam on top, and it floats.
Yeah.
And basically, they cut holes in it, and they drop the little seedlings in, little transplants, and the roots dangle inside of the nutrient solution, and then they keep that water kind of moving around in the bottom, and basically that's deep water culture. And what the Kratky system does is to stop from having to have the circulation. It leaves an open air space in between the water and the styrofoam or whatever your top is, and it leaves a little opening in there, and then the roots can absorb oxygen, because the leaves, everything's like carbon dioxide up top, but the roots need some oxygen. So that leaves a little space.
Going anaerobic.
Exactly. And yep. So what I did with the downspouts was Dr. Kratky was taking that deep water culture, and he actually did it in a 1 gallon container and stuck 1 head of lettuce in, and found out that 1 head of lettuce needed only about 1 gallon to grow. So he would take 1 gallon of nutrient solution, put the transplant in there, and by the time the roots keep going down as it evaporates, by the time it used up that nutrient solution, it was ready to be harvested. So So, I mean, you're a gardener, so you know how much water you're putting out on. So with 1 gallon of water, he was growing like a head of lettuce. And so same basic system. So I started with sewer pipes, plastic 4-inch PVC pipes. And I had an NFT system where you pump water into one end and it flows around and the roots dangle in that. And that worked really well. But it went back to, I'd be gone, the lightning would strike and a breaker would trip and, I'd come back in, 2 weeks and everything's gone. So I took those sewer pipes and I just capped off the ends and did the crack key system. I filled it up halfway with nutrient solution and popped all these plants in it. And that worked, but they were rolling around. So I had to, always have to make something to stop. So every one that I made, I had to fix something to keep it from rolling or strap them down. And then one day I was out, I was using the gutter system. If you guys have seen like Larry Hall, and he has like a rain gutter grow system where he puts a gutter and then he gets a bunch of bags of soil and puts a net cup in the bottom and sets it on top. And that net cup full of soil sits down into the gutter. And then you just have to keep that gutter filled up. And then all of those keep, absorbing water, kind of like the earth boxes. And I had a couple of gutters from that because we had a couple of those set up. Those worked real good for like herbs and that we had growing all over our porch. And I saw, it was sitting and it was flat. It wasn't rolling around like the sewer pipe. So I said, well, if I could cap that off, that'd work good. And then I thought, well, a downspout looks just like that. Right. So I got the downspouts, heated up the ends and bent them because we used to heat PVC and bend it, instead of trying to glue an elbow in something. Kind of like the off-grid stuff, you're out there, instead of, if you don't have a joint, you just kind of heat up the PVC and you can kind of bend a little and it'll take that shape. Yeah, so I did that with the ends of the downspout because it's made out of vinyl. Drill some holes in it, and that works good. And then so I put out all that information on my channel and just show people, how to do it, because it's something. If you got a couple basic tools, I use a chop saw, but you can just use a hacksaw, to cut it. All you need is like a drill. And if you don't have a heat gun, you can always get like the little elbows and silicone those on, and then cover up the tops of the hole. So really you can do it, it's basic. You don't need a bunch of power tools to do it. It's worked for, I've been doing this for 7 or 8 years. And, to me, I was going on the road and coming back, and I was in, like you're way out there in the middle of nowhere. And if you don't protect your garden, you can come home or wake up and like half of it could be gone. There might be, you've got critters and, you never know, down here we might have a freak hailstorm or something and crush everything. There's all different things that happen, so you're always worried about all these different things. So if you can cut out some of that worry, it makes it all that much easier. So, I put them in these things and I put them up on our porch, and then I didn't have to worry about the rabbits and armadillos anymore. And the deer weren't coming up to the porch. And then I didn't have to worry about the water, cutting off the breakers, no pumps and that. So that took care of that. So I just kept trying to eliminate, what the problems were. So that made it easier and easier. And then I'm like, oh, hey, this is pretty easy. It's cool. I'll pop these little seedlings in here and take off for a month and, not even worry about it.
Right. Can I pause you real quick? People saying they're having a hard time hearing me. So.
Oh, are they?
Can everyone hear me? Say yes, no, something.
And is it just you, Chris, or is it me too?
They say they can hear you fine, but they're having a hard time hearing me.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Maybe I just need to talk louder. Kind of maybe put in earbuds. All right. I thought that might be an issue, so.
Could be how far away from your mic. Are you using a iPad or something, or your desktop?
No, I'm just on the laptop.
Okay.
Let's see.
Mike?
Nothing? Okay. Now I can hear you now.
You can hear me?
Let's see. Go ahead and talk. You might have feedback.
What's that?
Yeah, we're getting feedback now.
Oh, we're getting feedback now. Let me see if I turn you down a little. How about now?
All right. How's that, everyone?
Can you
Better?
hear?
Yes.
No
No?
feedback?
I mean, you sound better to me. I can hear you a little bit better. That's cool. We're all getting the hang of this.
Yeah. Sorry for the technical difficulties. You know, if you can hear both of us clearly, give a thumbs up.
Oop, there
All
goes two.
right, we got 2 thumbs. We got 2 thumbs. All right, so back into it. So for people out there interested in growing hydro this way, how much space do you really need to set something like this up, and where can you set it up? And are there like risks of leaking, spilling, things like that? Because I know a lot of people don't want to put something full of water inside their house if there's potential, to damage something with water.
Right. Let's see. You can grow it just about anywhere. Just you need to know about plants. Like gardening. Like you wouldn't go to your part of the yard that just gets total shade all day and plant your garden there. You still have to know, how many hours of sun. So basically, it's about the same. It's just that if it sits in the sun, like down here in Florida, we're already up into the 90s some days down here. And I know out where you live, like south of where you live, it can get like really, like in Arizona and some of those states down below you, it can get like over 100 degrees. So
Right.
basically, you're gonna have to, get morning sun and just kind of don't let that nutrient solution heat up. You're gonna have to kind of keep an eye on that. So you're gonna have to be vigilant of that. But other than that, getting light, get as much light as you can without it heating up too much. And as far as space, I set up a little ladder system with 2x4s and shot them right up a wall where I have like 6 of them stacked on top of each other. So I got a little space that only comes out about a foot from the wall, and you can grow a lot of food, going vertical. I know some people know about that. But as far as being in the house, you're gonna have to think about light too. Either you're gonna need artificial light, or have it by a window or someplace that gets a lot of sun. And none of these containers really will leak, and you really shouldn't be moving them around too much. If they're totally full when you first do it, like the ends of these downspouts, I can pull one over here in a minute and show you, but the ends aren't like sealed up. And if you take them and pick them up, if your whole, you tip it, it will kind of leak
It'll
out the
slosh
end.
around.
Yeah. So like we had that's why I like to cut them shorter, and because they're easier to move. We used to have like 8-foot ones. And I tell my wife, help me move this. And both of us would be trying to get higher than the other one because, the water's leaking out one end. But
trying to balance the water game.
right. And so basically wherever you're going to put it there, it's like a bucket of water. So you're not going to want to move it around too much. But as far as it sitting in place, whatever container you have, just make sure it doesn't leak and it shouldn't have a problem with it.
Good. So how often do you have to change out the nutrient solutions in your system, or is it just never, or do you have to top it off or anything like that?
Yeah, good question. We're usually, that's why I start with a bunch of like leafy greens and that like this that are fast growing. Basically,
Right.
you're not doing too much to it. It uses what it needs, and you can just top it off. I keep it generally between half and 3/4 full. It depends on how often you can check it. And when plants are at different stages, they use, more water as they get bigger. So you have to check it more often as they mature. But when you first put in, like if you're using microgreens and you put those in, you won't have to check it for like a month. But after that, as they start to grow, you might have to check it like once a week. Then as they get really big, you might have to check it every 3 or 4 days. And as far as like total change outs, I never really do that because the plants get used to what their environment is. And sometimes if you totally change it, that it's gotten used to it and it's comfy of the plant's doing all right. And then you take it and dump it out and put brand new solution in, the different strength of the nutrients and everything. The plants, most of the time, they're not happy with, total change out like that. If you're doing that quite often, where they're used to like almost new nutrients all the time, then you can do that. But if you're letting your nutrients go where they, like a month, you're not going to want to do a total change out. I just top it off and top it off. And that's why we grow a lot of just leafy greens like this, is because by then, you're ready to harvest. Things like tomatoes and that, you're going to have to kind of, keep an eye on it and adjust it. And as you get into it, then you go ahead and get you some meters, and you can test and check the parts per million, right? pH, parts per million. On my channel, I don't do any of that because it's another thing to learn. And like I said, I want everybody to at least get excited and to try it. So we try to show them all the stuff you can do without any of that. Back in the old days, nobody had a meter. Hydroponics been around for thousands of years. They think even the ancient Egyptians were using them. And nobody had meters, and all of a sudden now, if you ask anybody in hydroponics, they say you need to have a meter. I'm like, well, they didn't.
So pH and your EC and your TDS and all of that. Right.
And then you're growing different things, and they'll say this one needs a higher pH, and this one needs a lower one, and this one needs, different nutrients. And by then, people are like, I'm just going to the grocery store and going to get something, So unless you're, some years, if I'm really busy, like this pak choi, sometimes that's all I'll grow, everywhere. I have a little herb garden for some herbs and that, but that way everything's about the same. I got the nutrients. If it's doing well in one, it's usually doing well in all of them. And, then I'm not trying to figure out all these different things. Other people, spend time, and they have time to check it every day, and they enjoy doing that. You can try all the different ones. It's basically experimenting and figuring out what's going to work for you, because we're all different. We're different levels of expertise. We're in different environments. We got different levels of dedication and what we want to put into it. So, there's a lot of factors that goes into your garden.
Right. So like with that, you've gone over the setup, and for everyone who's, just came in, we've kind of gone over the setup, your nutrient solution, the types of plants, easier types of plants that you can grow in this system. But how do you start your seeds before you get them into the hydro system? Because obviously you can't just drop a seed in water and expect it to rise out of the hole.
Right, exactly. And Harm or something asked about the wastewater, and when I do change it out, instead of just getting rid of it, we've got a traditional garden, and I just dump it on there instead of just wasting it. You, like what you're doing out there, you try to be frugal with everything. It's like nothing goes to waste, right?
Right.
Yeah, and the seeds
compared to. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh no, go ahead, because I was going to start on
the. Compared to you with the hydro out there, like here, like it almost feels like we waste a lot of water. I mean, when it hits the summer months and we're in soil out here with the wind and the hot sun, I mean, we can go through 1,200 gallons of water a week watering the garden.
Yeah, that's what really. Yeah, if people, because like here, especially in the city, people just turn on their sprinklers and everything. But actually go and turn your hose full on. You guys out there, put your hose in a gallon of water and turn on and see how quick you fill up that gallon, and think, time it, and then think when you got that thing running for hours on your garden, how much water is going out, and then every day after day. So, that's, that it conserves water. That's why I think Dr. Crackhead did that out there too, because there's lots of remote areas in Hawaii and some places up on the volcano. Like I said, you're having to go get your water, or you have them in cisterns and collecting rainwater, and you don't want to use it all on your garden, and 90% of it's like evaporating or running off. So I think that's why he kind of developed a system like this. As far as the seeds, starting it, I do two ways. If I'm in a hurry or things that I don't really want to start off, I just go get transplants at the nursery or Home Depot or what have you, and just wash off the roots. And most plants do all right. Lettuce does all right like that because it likes its roots being wet. Tomatoes do okay. So I'll do that. But as far as growing the seeds, I've got a little small grow boxes. And if you watch anybody grow microgreens, most of them grow microgreens in 10-20 trays. Yes. And I started like that, but microgreens are basically, it tends to be a little expensive because you're using a lot of seeds. You're planting really dense because you're eating the plants only when they're about yay big.
Right.
So you're using a lot of seeds, and then if you're wanting a plant that's the seeds tend to be a little more expensive too. You're talking about like the cost going up exponentially growing microgreens. And if you don't eat all of those, like I don't know how many microgreens. Lots of people probably don't even eat them, but if you don't eat a lot of them and you end up wasting it, you're thinking about you're throwing money at just in your compost pile. You might as well just be tossing your money out there. So I grow in a little 5x5 containers. I just found up at the dollar store, and I keep different ones growing at different times, and that way when we want them, we go over and just trim what we need off of it, put that on our food, and then leave the rest of them growing. And if I have like one of these downspouts open, what I'll do is go and take some of those microgreens out of there, put them in a little pool noodle, and set it inside of there and let those start to grow, and then replant some more microgreens. And then that way I'm growing just kind of what we need, because I hate growing way too much. Like you've got a bunch of animals and everything too. I mean, you can grow, you can eat, but I mean, nothing's really going to go to waste out there. Like, if
any waste we have usually ends up either going to the rabbits, the goats, alpacas, or chickens. Lately, most of it's been going to the chickens because they're the most productive at giving us food back. So we're kind of giving them a little more attention than everyone else right now, because they provide more food for us than any of the other animals.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's we had chickens. My wife misses them, and that she keeps wanting more, but we're in the city, we can't have any. But so we don't have anything. Our dogs aren't going to eat whatever's left over. So I try not to grow too much, and so I grow small portions. And if you watch, it's another way that I found that was just easy. I think somebody was selling microgreen seeds like years ago, and they just had a reused container that spinach came in, like at the grocery store. You open it up, took the stuff out, and he cut some slits in it, put a paper towel through it, and just put the microgreen seeds on it, and came back and was like spraying it off, and it was kind of soaking up the water. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I kind of converted and found some boxes that fit what I was doing, in the right size, and they were more sturdy, because those containers were good, but you kind of use them once or twice and they fall apart.
Right.
So I just grow them, and I just get any container. You can go get any Tupperware, reuse the container, the takeout boxes. When you order takeout, like Chinese takeout, to save those plastic containers, and like flip the lid upside down, cut some slits, put a little paper towel in it. You grow microgreens in it.
Right. Yeah, my dad would recycle when I was younger, well, when he was still alive, but he would recycle like those plastic donut containers, that had a different donuts and kind of the same thing. He would just put paper towels down inside of that, and put all the seeds on that and sprout them in there. Or he would recycle paper towel rolls, and he would fold them up to look like little jiffy pots and fill them with soil and do that, and then use the container as like a micro greenhouse.
It's cool. That's what my wife and I, for the past 4 or 5 months, we've been saving all the little toilet paper rolls and paper towel rolls. Yeah. So we actually got a bunch of us sitting over there, for that exact thing. Mm-hmm. So anything you can do to just reuse and not, to say, like I said, so this is cheap and easy, whatever you can do, so you're not out spending a bunch of money, and I'm not putting it down. If you've got the extra money and you don't care and you just want to go buy everything, that's cool. But there's a lot of people that don't get into growing and growing some of your own food. That's like empowering, we're now more than ever, we're finding out that we depend on other people for a lot of stuff, and food's a basic necessity. Yeah.
Almost everything nowadays, people depend on everyone else to keep them alive, whether they actually even realize it or not. Because if all these places shut down, businesses, stores, restaurants, grocery stores, the supply chain starts to crumble. Like most people rely on all those sources to keep them alive, and without them, like, what are they going to do?
Yeah. It's kind of scary thought. And that's what it said. So when you do grow some of your own food, that's empowering, because now you're kind of taking care of yourself for one of the basic needs of life. We need air, water, and food, and you really don't realize it, because you're always going to the grocery stores. The grocery stores, if they don't have every single thing or every single item or every brand, everybody gets mad, so, we're just used to it all being there. We're used to a restaurant being on every corner now. And now all of a sudden when everything shuts down or slows down and you kind of have time to kind of take a look at it, you realize that, you know, you're dependent on other people for like your way of life just to stay alive.
Right. So, I mean, so for one of your systems and, you know, how you set it up, like what would it cost for someone to get started, you know, growing in your non-circulating hydro systems that you have?
Well, the main cost would be the hydroponic nutrients. And you
Right.
can get some like on Amazon. It depends on if, you know, they've got them in stock or not, but they've got small kits where you can get like the three different things we talked about, the master blend, calcium nitrate, and Epsom salt. Comes like in a kit for like $25, and it'll make about 450 gallons. So, you know, that'll last you a little while. So basically, if you want to, you know, go with that and get those nutrients, you can order them direct from the supplier. I pay about 20 bucks, I think, for about a 20. Let me see. I just got a 5-pound bag. So it was like 15 and say about 24 with shipping and everything. And that will last me probably like a year or two.
Wow.
So
that's cheap. That's cheap.
But if people go on over and do big systems, like I know this guy CB, he has 2 huge greenhouses, and he'll mix the master blend in a 55-gallon trash can. You know, that big. So they'll have that much and going around to the plant. So he goes through a lot more nutrients than I do. So it depends on how much you're going to grow. But if you're just growing like this is me and my wife, like basically eating this stuff, you know, a little small bag will last you, you know, a long while. The containers, like I said, if you want to go out, you can reuse the stuff you got coming out of your kitchen. Basically anything that can hold water, you just want to block out the light because the algae, you know, will grow in a clear container. So basically either wrap it with foil, paint it. You can paint it black to block out the light, and then you can paint it white over that to like reflect the sun so it doesn't heat up real fast.
Sure.
You can get containers at the Dollar Tree now. You know, there's a lot of places to get stuff like really cheap. Or the downspouts that I use, a 10-foot section is only like $12. And if you cut it into like 4-foot pieces or 2-foot pieces, you can get 5 or, you know, 4 or 5, however many you want out of a 10-foot downspout. And right now I'm selling I cut about a 30-inch piece, and it's got 6 holes in it. So you can basically grow like 6 plants in like a 30-inch downspout. So if you get 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. And if you get 1, 2, 3, 4 of those out of each 10-foot section, so you're spending $12 and you get 4 of those, and times 6, you get 24 spots that you can put different plants in for $12. You know, so it's not going to cost you a whole lot to, you know, get started. You get that, your nutrients, and then I use a pool noodle. The hydroponic cloning collars, those tend to be a little expensive. They go anywhere from like a quarter up to $1 or more for each one. But if you get a pool noodle, basically it's the same thing, and you cut up yourself. You can get them at the dollar store for $1 and cut them in. It'll cost you like 2 cents a piece.
Right. So for everyone just popping in now, you know, we're talking about Mike's hydroponic systems that he makes, but he also teaches you how to make them on his YouTube channel. So when we're done, wrapped up with this video at some point, we'll go back in. I'll put a link in the description to that specific video where he teaches you how to make those hydroponic setups. But also, if you're not the handy type, you know, you can also go to his, is it Etsy? You have an Etsy shop, right?
Yeah, it's on Etsy.
And you sell pre-made ones, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Just the downspouts.
Just the downspout, and I'll put a link in there for that too. So if you're not the handy type of person, but you still want to try to grow hydro, you can pick them up from him. So
yeah, cool. That's a good way just to get started. If you don't feel like making a bunch of them, you just want one, play around with it, and then say, and then if it works, you know, go ahead and, you know, you have time to make your own. But it's, you know, try to help everyone out. Like I said, you know, there's a ton of people out there like you. I mean, you could get out there and whip them all out, you know, but then there's some people like my mom, you know, if she had to go through that, she'd be like, I'm just going to the grocery store.
Right. You've almost inspired me to maybe try to introduce the little hydro onto the homestead here.
Yeah, I mean,
So
you've got
just
time
mainly because
to.
the water saving benefits. I mean, so as I'm thinking about it right now, we use so much water in the summer. It's crazy. If we could cut back on some of that and, do a few hydro buckets, around the trailer in different spots on the farm, even if it was just, to grow not only extra food for us, but even the animals.
Mhm. Yeah, and then when you experiment with different things, you'll find out, like for yourselves, and if you grow, I mean, like basil, like loves water, it grows
Right.
off and just and it's not just these downspouts. This is basically what I show people, like easy ways to do it. And as far as like shipping, that's easy for me to ship. But I've also got like the big totes at Walmart, like the 16-gallon totes, plastic bins,
Yes. Yep.
and
Yep.
cut holes in the top of that, fill that up with nutrients, and then you can grow. I stuck basil in there, like 4 basil plants. I think I put 2 in each space. There's like 8 of them in there, and that thing was just like a huge bush of basil. And I came back and harvested it, and it
Right.
it it was like that. I think I filled it up once or twice, and that gave me like 4 harvests of basil out of it over the
How
season.
big?
So
How big did those plants get?
the basil gets pretty big. Another thing I think I was talking about with you too was the sweet potatoes. Sweet potato leaves
Yep.
are edible. You can make little sweet potato slips and put it in there, and it just grows wild. And that has deep roots that run all over the place. Looking for water. So those big deep bins
Uh-huh.
work really well. The like pak choi, like you see over here, that only gets
Right.
about 6 or 8 inches. Like the plant,
Hmm.
and basically it's not going to be growing like a head of lettuce, like a head of romaine or an iceberg lettuce. It's going to be all the kind of leafy stuff. So like the bok choy you see in the store, that's like a head of bok choy with all the wilted leaves and that. This is
Right. Right.
basically like it's going to be a little different. This is called I think Shiro, Shiro. I'll have to check on that, but the variety I
Right.
get, it doesn't grow like a compact head, but each leaf, the stem is like really crunchy, and the leaves are just like that. Instead of being that all wilted kind of like spinach looking stuff, you go
Right.
make a soup, you just pick a couple leaves off and chop it up and drop it in the soup. It's like excellent.
Uh, now you're making me hungry.
Yeah, time to go eat.
Oh,
Cool. Let's say hey,
yeah.
hey to everybody in the chat there. I can't see too much of it. I see a couple people, popping
Yeah.
in there. Yeah, but thanks to everyone, coming on in here and hanging out with
Right.
us. And that
Definitely. Thank
Keely
you.
B that you see in there, that's my wife, and she, when she's
Yes.
talking about it, she's kind of helping. Uh, she knows a lot about what I do too, so she'll
Right.
help, answering questions. If everybody was wondering who the strange lady is, and they're talking about it. Hey, David Pruitt.
I think I kind of exhausted my list. I was trying to touch on everything from the beginning of hydro to the end of it. And if
Hmm.
you feel like there's anything I missed that you want to touch on, before we ask for some questions from anyone who's in chat, if they have questions, is there anything else you want to touch on that we might have missed?
No, like I said, it's just they grown some of your own food. That's empowering. What you are doing out there, Chris. That's really empowering. That that you're learning. Going back to the basics and learning. To do a lot of stuff on your own, and there's a lot of pride in that goes into that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of us have
Right.
kind of
Thank you.
lost that. And I think there's a lot of people interested, in going back to the basics and like, this movement that's going on, like even with like tiny houses or whatever, that we're all
Right.
looking at different ways of, that it was just consume, 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 get more and bigger and better. And now we're kind of like having to put the tap on the brakes because of all the stuff that's going on. And this is the time that everybody thinks, you look at yourself and like us, well, we walk out the back door and grab stuff for a salad, or, when you go up to the grocery store and, and that it's all bare, or you're even worried about because of what's happening now, all the people that are walking around and
Right.
they're, breathing and touching,
Coughing and
dig,
licking produce in the grocery store.
yeah, digging through feeling every one of them to find the perfect one, and then taking
Right.
one, leave, and then the next person comes through and feels every one, and how many people squeezed your stuff. So yeah, so
Right.
the more you can do yourself, you kind of cut down on the chances. Some people may not worry about it, but my brain kind of thinks that every time I'm sitting there, looking at it. I think it's just we get back and like I said, I'm not knocking traditional gardening. Like what you're doing is awesome.
Right.
If you got the time to get out there and plow and till and compost and weed and do all of that, that's like fantastic. I mean, I've done that for years, and I like getting out there and smelling the earth and everything. But
Right.
there's a lot of people that, like me, I'm renting right now. My landlord's not going to let me till up the backyard, and I've got dogs. They need someplace to go, and so I can't really have a garden down on the ground with them.
Right.
So I grow mine in containers, lift them up. So at least I figure out a way. Maybe people live in apartments or elderly who can't, get down and weed all the time, or somebody that's disabled, that if they can just do
Right.
something on their patio. So trying to empower everybody so that,
even on a balcony in the city,
oh yeah, yeah. So it's
if you're south facing and you get some light.
Yeah, toss a couple of herbs and stuff out there. Mint grows wild. You can have yourself mojitos whenever you want.
Right.
And like basil, so you mix it up for pesto. I went up to the
Mhm.
store and there was a little clamshell of basil was like 4 or 5 ounces and was $4.99, and they were all wilted and
Right.
looked like crap. And
Already
so
starting to brown.
yeah, and so if you can just walk out your back door, get what you need, and that plant still continues to grow, that's pretty cool. I think everyone should experience, that. Once you start doing it, you get hooked, and then you get, start with a couple plants if you've never done it before and get the hang of that. Find out what the
Right.
easiest things are to grow. Get the hang of it. Don't try, because we get a little over ambitious, and you're like, I'm going to grow tomatoes and cucumbers and all kinds of melons,
Right.
and then you have all the stuff growing and drive yourself crazy, and half the stuff will be dying, and so you get discouraged. But start with a couple things, and like basil and mint, it's just stuff that's like hard to kill, and get the hang of it, and then add 1 or 2 or 3 like the next year and then next year, and you'll get addicted to it, right? And you'll scale up. So
And what a lot of
yeah,
people don't realize either is what a difference the food you grow at home tastes compared to what you buy at the grocery store. I mean, it is, it's a complete 180 of a difference,
it is. It's I get once in a great while to get a good tomato at the store. 99% of the time, it just pisses you off to spend that much money on it, and it just tastes bland or something. After you've grown
watery
something.
pulp.
Yeah, and it's So I mean, you can't do anything about it if that's all I got. And then you haven't grown your own.
Right.
And so after you grow your own, it's a little, sometimes you go up shopping and you're like, kicking yourself for not starting out, your plants a couple of months earlier.
Or even worse, you finally find something in the grocery store that looks like it was grown right and should be full of flavor, and it's a little more expensive than you'd usually pay for that particular type of produce, and you take it home and it's still bland and flavorless.
Yeah, it's just for looks. It's crazy.
Right. It's nuts. Well, they also just grow them fast for production too, which means they're sucking up way more water content than they are nutrient content. You need all those nutrients, and micronutrients are what create the flavor.
Right.
So
right. Exactly.
Without it, you get bland, watery food.
Yep. Let's see. Harm was asking about rosemary.
Yeah, I just noticed that. Let's throw that up there.
There you go. Rosemary doesn't do really well. That's kind of like a bush, that grows, like you can keep it growing year after year. It doesn't like its roots like really wet. That's what you're gonna have to look up, like different plants. Like citrus trees. People like, can I grow a lemon tree or something? They don't like the roots wet all the time. So you're gonna have to like look into it. So most of your herbs in that do okay. Rosemary doesn't, because it's more of a bush. What's that, like a perennial or something? And it's just like I said, basil. You said touch. Like most of your lettuce, your leaf lettuce, arugula, and things like that will work well. Um, some of the plants, tarragon, oregano, some of them do. You're gonna have to experiment with it, and it's just that most plants aren't used to being totally in water, so you're gonna have to kind of experiment with different things. Just look up like hydroponics, and they'll show you like plants. If you see, look my channel, you see stuff that I'm growing. Basically, that stuff that's gonna do well. And I like experimenting, so because this stuff like they're testing for out in space, aeroponics that NASA's working on it because we don't have dirt out in space, but they're wanting to teach astronauts right how to grow. They're up there for months at a time instead of just eating freeze dried stuff all the time. They want to grow some actual food, so they're testing out aeroponics.
Right. Anyone else have any questions they would like to ask, or we can just stay in it?
And David too said, when you're growing your own, you don't have to worry about like pesticides and that, being sprayed on it. Right. So, even organic stuff right now, the organics, are still sprayed with something. They classify it as an organic pesticide. But if you're growing it on your own, I grow more than I need. And if the bugs get some of it, I just feel like, they need to eat too. I try not to attract too many of them. But I found when I first started trying to keep all of them off of everything was you just end up pulling your hair out. And, so, if I'm not going to use pesticides, like we said, 1,000 years ago, people were growing their own food. They didn't have pesticides and that they had to figure something out. So, grow some marigolds.
It's part of the cycle. Mother Nature needs to eat too.
Yeah.
So, if we kill all the bugs, we're going to kill the ecosystem.
Right. Yeah, and all those bugs eat. All those bugs mate and do things, and they decompose and go back in. And it's like I said, it's all part of the bigger system. So,
I mean, like around here, we get a crazy amount of praying mantises in the summer, and
oh, nice.
They chow on all the bad bugs. It's they actually do most of the work for us.
Nice.
So, and ladybugs too.
Yeah, ladybugs. You get the big praying mantis.
What's that?
You get the big praying mantis, or like the little ones we have.
Yeah, they get in between 2.5 to 4 inches.
Yeah. Yeah, we had some. We went on some nature hikes. I mean, there were like a couple of like huge ones. My wife had got pictures of before. Yeah, and it was they looked pretty cool. Nice. But they were monsters.
Nice. Yeah, they're good to have in the garden. I mean, and we get a crazy amount of them out here. They're everywhere. So obviously there's something they really love to eat, or there wouldn't be so many, I guess.
Right. Yeah. That's, we're over here in the city and we're by a river. So they go down by the river and they spray for mosquitoes, which is unfortunate because they end up, killing like everything. So, yeah. And we came from living out on 300 acres where there was like I said, I'd plant like this pak choi and it'd bolt, and there would be like a swarm of honeybees, that would come out, once, and the big bumblebees and everything. But up here I have, it's like few and far between.
Right. Yeah. See, we have a bee pollen that grows on our creek run through the middle of our property, and there's just a crazy amount of bees out there. I've been trying to track where their hive is for about a year now, so I can try to swoop them up and get them into a nuke.
Yeah. That'd be neat.
Yeah. But they're hard to find. It's hard to find their home when they're wild.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've seen a couple of shows now where they're like just, out there just hunting for them, and sometimes they find them, sometimes they don't.
Right, right. I've read you can actually attract a queen in, or not a yeah, I think it was a queen by making like a trap box and baiting it with like sugar water and lemongrass.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know how much truth there is to it, but I remember reading that in a book a while ago, and that's how they say that's how you can catch wild bees, is by trapping them that way, and then they'll follow the queen over into the nuke once you get her.
Wow.
So I don't know how it all works. I'm still trying to learn about bees. We want to get bees here just to produce some honey, but we're not quite there yet, but eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. So you enjoying everything?
I'm great. Is everybody else?
Cool.
Did anybody learn anything? I think Bram learned something. Did you or Harm? Sorry, did you learn something, Harm? I always
Yeah,
forget there's a delay.
yeah, that's you learn that doing like live streams. I used to do that. I'd ask, and then everybody, if I had a host too, would sit there. We'd ask a question, and then we're like, oh, okay, we have to wait, and then there's like this awkward pause and that going on. Howdy out
Right.
there. Hooah.
Wah. So, yeah, I think I've ran out of questions.
Okay, cool. I showed up late. Collecting
that's good.
landscape rock. Yeah, neat. Cool. Here we go. Sure, I did. Okay, I worked in the garden. Oh, nice.
Well, good.
Yeah, cool. That's what, I was gardening, traditional gardening for a long while. And then, like I said, I had to figure out a different way. And it was YouTube, just like, what we're doing here, Googled, about stuff. And then and I think I heard about hydroponics when I was young, but it's just because you see it in the store. And so I wanted to see what that was about. And then you go down a rabbit hole of everything. And then with YouTube, you can like figure out, everybody's got videos on everything right now. So, all the information's out there.
And there's simple systems like yours, like we talked about today, all the way up into these insanely crazy like hybrid Aero NFT setups, all metered and downstream meters and upstream meters, and everything's auto regulated and just insanity.
Yeah. Somebody was, and I get those emails all the time, people trying to sell, you need this, you need that. And, it's insane what you can do. Like I said, so if people want to step up, that's cool. If you can get all that equipment and get it set right and your food's just like pumping out, it's an awesome way to grow. Really, really efficient. But like I said, not all of us can do that. So this is a good place to start. Like your garden, you can start with a little square foot garden or something, and or a container garden, and you can always work your way up into like a full traditional garden. Hydroponics the same way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I really like the simplicity of your entire setup and how you do it. It's like literally someone who has never grown anything before could literally take your system and start just with that, just like you said, and picking up starts at say like Home Depot or Walmart and washing off the roots of the lettuce and putting it right into the system, and they're growing food.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Appreciate that. That's basically it in a nutshell. That that's what I wanted to to include everybody. That anybody can at least give it a try, even if you're not growing a whole lot of your own food, just to witness, just to do that and watch it, see the roots grow down there, and you're picking off, leaves that you want. It's pretty cool just to do it even for a hobby. And some people grow some plants that aren't, like almost everything I grow is to eat. Even like the flowers, we're growing nasturtiums, because you can eat the stems and the leaves and the flowers off of it, But my wife wants to grow something like decorative. I'm like, I can't eat it. You're taking up my space, or whatever. But but there are some people like grow some decorative things, and just have fun with it. But basically, as far as growing your food, there's nothing more exciting than just instead of stuff rotting in your refrigerator or something, to just walk out back and just pick something, toss it on your sandwich, or just eat it out of there. We drink a lot of juices, so then you spend your money on the little things like the fruit or stuff that you're not growing, and you go out and all your leafy greens are just always in your backyard, so you don't have to worry about spending money on that, because the greens really have gotten kind of expensive in the store now. That the kale was like they were giving it away when we were young, like 10 cents a pound or something, and now everybody's like kale, the superfood. Now the price like went out the roof. You're like, what the hell? It was just 10 cents a pound, a couple of 10 years ago or something.
Yeah, and we're already starting to see price jumps in the grocery stores right now with stuff.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
things we were buying a month ago that were normally not on sale for like $5 are now $8.
Yep. And it's something like really crazy is going on because it's besides like people not going out and being at work right now, there's people who there's stuff grown out there that they don't have the people out there to harvest the stuff.
Right. And I've seen a lot of farmers, posting, on YouTube, Instagram, and stuff like that, standing next to literally like 100,000 pounds of onions that are just rotting in the field because they couldn't ship them.
Yeah. And it's not, and there's people, so people are out here, like I said, that's the whole disconnect is that, now there's food out there, it's going to waste. There's people who are hungry, it's because it's not there where we're used to going and picking it up and getting it.
Right.
So that little system's been broken all of a sudden. So this is like an eye opener for a lot of people, that, if, learning, I think every neighborhood, like you're grown, like you're kind of self-sufficient, you're out there like in the middle of nowhere. But all of us that are like living in a city, like I live here in Florida, and it's like the citrus capital, it's like California. Why doesn't every house or every block have like community orange trees and lemon trees and just citrus instead of us going to the store and buying it all the time? Shouldn't every place just have like a tree grown wild and everybody who lives there, just be able to go over and forage off of it? Why do we cut down all the citrus trees and everything? I think people should get together and right now we've got like a loquat growing, and most of the people down here don't know you even eat loquat. I grew up in Miami. That was like candy to us kids, growing, running and playing and just picking off a tree and eating it. And I'm like, can I grab some of your loquat? And they're like, you eat that? They just have it, it's a plant in the yard.
You actually just gave me a great idea with what you're saying with your community and citrus trees. So this just popped into my head. So people living in a city, like in apartment complexes and things like that, they could like start an apartment community garden where each of them get a little hydro setup, or make a hydro setup like yours and grow on their balconies and whatnot. And each apartment owner or whatever, they each grow something else to pull into the community of the apartment. So they grow a diverse amount of things, and that cuts costs for everybody. But when you grow just one thing, you usually grow way more than you can eat. So if everyone does something like that, then they can share the diversity amongst the entire building.
Exactly. Very cool point. I'd
love to see more people doing stuff like that.
That would be awesome. I mean, way back, I forget, was it after World War II or one of these that, and everybody didn't have money to spend. They took all the resources and put it into the war, and people started victory gardens.
Yes.
And a lot of people are growing their own food, and then it's just like, after a couple decades, everybody forgets about it. And then we got into commercialism. So I think it's time for us all to kind of get back to that a little bit.
Right. I'd strongly agree. And it's funny you say Victory Garden too, because I don't know if anyone remembers the show on PBS on Saturday mornings, Victory Garden.
Yeah.
I grew up watching it.
Did you?
Sorry, I had to step outside.
No, that's all right. Let's see, in Harmass, something. What's that? What about growing strawberries? Yeah, I'm trying strawberries right now. And like I said, you're gonna have to experiment with things that like the roots. Strawberries grow in a different kind of hydroponics, what we call they've got a Dutch bucket system where you actually fill pails up with vermiculite, and then you don't get all kind of like different things growing in there. You just have vermiculite and you get your plant growing in it, or cocoa coir. And they have little drip lines that just drip the nutrients in, certain time during the day. So that's another thing, getting into like timers and then little tiny tubes that can get clogged up, and you have to, try to, make sure everything's dripping just the right amount. They grow really well in those systems. I'm trying it in the cracky system. I got like a handful of strawberries, nothing to write home about, yay big or whatever, but they were growing, and I overwintered them too. So that was another thing. It was trying to get it to grow through the winter, but we didn't really have,
Awesome.
we don't have winter here like you guys have a winter. So, I'm talking about like a Florida winter. But so we went. I at least kept it over the winter, and they're starting to produce again. So I'll do a couple videos on that. But I'm experimenting with it, and I think some other people have done it. You're just gonna have to try it. Like I said, your environment where you live might be a little different than this, so give it a try. My wife said the strawberries tasted really good, coming off of it. That's another thing you get up there is like tomatoes or strawberries same way. Sometimes they look really good and you bite into them and there's like no flavor.
Right. I want to touch on a comment that I missed right up here. Where did it go? By who? Yeah, right there.
Farmers should start making.
That is a good idea for the farmers, because then they could sell the compost, obviously, but there's still a disruption in the supply chain of food being delivered to people, and that's why I feel it's even more important now than ever for people to try to grow their own food because of this disruption in the supply chain.
Yeah, there was actually this guy was in a warehouse, and he's not a farmer or anything. He's just like a buyer that buys all the stuff and ships it out, and like the middleman. And he had his entire warehouse was just full of like perishable stuff, But it's
right.
I don't know if there's like maybe some truckers are getting sick or not working too, and the people that are in the transportation and workers and stores not being open, and there's a whole lot of different variables going on right now that we're not used to, and it throws a kink in it. So he's got all the stuff, and he's not a farmer. He doesn't have anywhere to do it. It just seems like a waste when and most people you ask if it was oranges or whatever it was in there, you want some free stuff, they'd be go in there and get it, but we're like letting stuff rot. It's kind of sad, that there's people starving, people would get it, and it's just the way our system's set up that you throw a little wrench in the gears, and all of a sudden everything comes to that screeching halt.
And it's even worse too, because I've seen some of these farmers talking about this, just because of health and safety regulations, they won't even let them donate it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So it's
that's horrible.
Yeah, it just goes. It's grown and just goes to waste.
Oh, I want one.
Too dependent on others. Yeah, we sure have.
Others. Yeah, they have become way too dependent on others. That's that's part of the problem in this fragile ecosystem we live in nowadays. Is you cut off supply to all these people that are providing services to them, and it just breaks. It breaks so easily.
Yeah. Now, cherry tomatoes grow really well in the system, and if you want to go a step up and do an NFT with the circulating water, I've done it with the cherry tomatoes, and it would get huge and have all kinds of tomatoes on it. And like I said, that just walking out and grabbing some and eating them, that's cool. Tomatoes actually grow so big, the roots, that even a 4-inch pipe, it'll clog it up. So if you have like water running through like an NFT system, after a few months, they'll actually clog it up where you either have to keep trimming the roots or pull the plant out or grow it in something like I was talking about, like those big 16-gallon totes. So they drink a lot of water, and then they throw out a lot of roots.
I've never heard of Candyland. I would love to try that one.
It's it's kind of neat seeing something. I've stuck it on my TikTok or whatever, but my wife, she likes all this stuff. If there's like a tomato that tastes like a grape, or a grape that tastes like a pineapple, or she's like, oh, I want to try that. And she saw these little tomato plant, and the tomatoes were like, looked like peas. They were so small, and they were ripe and bright red. That they're already ripe, and they were like only that small, and full of flavor. But what are you gonna do? You like pick a bunch of little ones like that? But it's kind of cool. I'll see how big the plant actually gets, or if it does.
Awesome.
The first time I've ever seen it.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that on your YouTube.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Like I said, we'll see how it does in hydroponics. It might not like it at all, but it's fun experimenting.
You don't know until you try.
Right. Yeah.
Hoo-ah.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
The watercress is one of the most nutrient dense plants out there for you.
And it grows almost near every water source, or propagates very, very good near any water. Have you ever tried to grow that in hydro?
I tried once. I'm going to order some more seeds, and it kind of did all right. I think I had it where it got too hot. And next year, I'm going to try it a little more in the shade. But this guy, Pepe Fasos, who does microgreens, and he's in Australia, he actually grows it to sell it. And he was growing it and like regular hydroponics. And he started the cracky systems, and he's actually got those set up, and he's growing the watercress in those and selling them at the market. But I mean, this guy, if you want to check him out, is Pepe Fasos. It's he started out in a sunroom growing micros, and then he went on over and he got so many orders and baby greens and things that he had this big hog shed that they weren't using. It was on the land for years, and he used the structure because it had all those big huge beams and everything in it, and gutted it, cleaned it out, disinfected, and built it up, and turned the whole thing into microgreens. So when you go in, all you see are all these trays, as far as you can see, and he's selling them everywhere down in Australia. So it's very cool.
Tomatoes. Oh, that's a good point.
So video hydroponic watercress. Yeah, I want to give that. I'm going to actually give the watercress another try this year. I'm going to have to order some seeds.
This is a really good question.
Successful grower. You want to go?
In my opinion, yeah, I'll take it first, I guess. 3 qualities. You have to be willing to accept failure. You have to be willing to adapt, and you have to be willing to learn. I think those would be the 3 for me anyway.
Yeah, those are good. I mean, I'm going to agree with those. And one that I would add is patience too. And that comes along with the willing to learn and the accepting failure. Because if those things can make you just like quit if you don't have a little bit of patience. That not everything's going to be perfect right out of the gate, and all of us have failures in that. Don't give up. Keep trying, and what works, go all in on that, and then try some different things, that keep experimenting and keep an open mind.
Yep, and learn from your failures, and track your data too, what you're doing, whether it is hydro or soil, what have you put in your soil, or what your nutrient levels were in your hydro, and keep track of all that data, because those little minute details could be the one answer between your success and failure the next time. Yep,
exactly. That's one reason why I use like the master blend. It works, that basic formula, like I gave you the 10 grams, and 5 grams to a 5-gallon bucket. That basically works pretty much for everything. And if you really, really get into hydroponics, you can, just like gardening, you have different nutrients at different levels and different times. You have rooting, you have the blooming stage, the fruiting stage. You can get into all that with the hydroponics, but basically that's why I do like leafy greens, things where it's going to be that one basic formula that you just keep with that, because then when you start telling them, well, when it gets to this stage, you're going to have to switch this up, or when it gets to this stage, then you're going to have to adjust this. Then people start to get confused. So basically this formula and this fertilizer, the nutrients, basically works with that. That's what I use for everything. That way, when people ask, I'm like, that's the formula, that's what I refill with. And basically that's all I try to do. If it takes more than that, I don't do it, so that I can just teach the basics to people. And, from there, if you want, like I said, YouTube's out there, there's, a video for everything. You want to step up from there,
there's a plethora of information.
Yeah. Just go down the rabbit hole, and
that rabbit hole can get deep real quick on just about any subject.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Netherlands. Cool. Where conditions are almost perfect. Oh man, nice.
Right.
a few years we had a big corrugate plant. Oh, nice. Yeah, that's another thing we want to grow. We eggplant. But we have it was a longer variety. It looks kind of like a cucumber or something. We grew that one year. Those are pretty cool. Oh no, that's aubergine, right?
Right.
But yeah, the Netherlands. I saw some videos. See, I looked up hydroponics. I looked for people growing stuff all over the world. And like I said, some places that that are conducive to growing, that's awesome. And then I looked at places that were like almost like desert-like conditions, and try to pick up like something from everywhere because we're all in different environments. I've watched a lot from India, believe it or not, like India or Pakistan, where there's like developing countries and people that are in rural areas and trying to grow like their own food, and and they're not, they're like low income and not spending a lot. I found a lot of videos on those too. So like I said that I would never have seen that before if it wasn't for YouTube. So
Right.
cool times we're living in.
Yes. I just thought of something. What is something that you absolutely cannot grow in a hydro setup?
Yeah, basically, I mean, all of your, like a root plant is not going to do that good.
Right.
I've grown some turnips. Like I said, that's going to be a little finicky because, it can't
Right.
sit in water. Just the roots have to be in there. So you have to kind of keep an eye on that. And then most of your root plants, the earth, the pressure that's on it is what causes it to like kind of, grow a little uniform, and it might, you have some root plants that grow a little funky, but then if you have nothing there, the root just grows any way it wants. And they basically all kind of look like Frankenstein kind of, and then if they stay wet and they're staying moist, and you get a problem. So root plants are a little more difficult. And I do grow a lot of beets, and we actually eat the greens off the beets. If you go in a store, the greens are all like limp, and they tell you to wash them and that. Yeah, but yeah, you're a gardener, so you can grow a beet and you can keep cutting the tops off. You can keep hard like the cut and come again, and you keep having greens, and it'll just keep producing. So you get a ton of greens instead of like one beet. So I do like growing roots, turnips the same way. If you just want to cut greens off, that's kind of a more mild kind of flavor. You just have to look at. You can always look it up, Google it, and see what doesn't like its roots wet all the time. What doesn't do well in hydroponics, but what's that? Radishes grow. Radishes are one of the easiest things to grow. And you can, that as far as like the greens, but those sprout like if you want to just test out, radishes are like one of the easiest things to grow.
Right. And radish sprouts are delicious.
Oh, they are. That's why you toss them on your
nice, spicy, tangy flavor to it. And it's more of an aftertaste, really, because when you first chew on it, it's kind of greeny, leafy, and then the spice comes out a few seconds later, and it definitely adds flavor to anything you put it with.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, great in a salad. Yeah, it is. Yeah, so get your different things, So microgreens is supposed to be more dense in nutrients than the mature plants. So if you can just, have them growing all the time, cut some up whenever you're eating, just sprinkle some on. We're over there like popping vitamins and supplements all the time. Just think of it like your vitamins and that you're putting on your salads, and it tastes good instead of just trying to, choke down a pill. And then you can take those and put them in your downspouts and, turn them into something like that. And, it's just an ongoing system. So basically here in Florida, which I think in the Netherlands you can do, is I grow like almost all year round. Just keep, stuff coming.
Right. You can throw them on a sandwich too, or even, if you don't have a hydro setup and you do have a garden outside, you can take those sprouts and put them out in the soil too. So
yeah. Anyone done any competitions?
Do you enjoy them? Is that mentally different than growing for reaction or similar? I've never been involved in a gardening competition like the giant pumpkin growers or anything like that. I've seen some of them, and it's a way cool process, but I've always just grown for food. So
yeah, I'm the same way. I've never been real competitive as far as like my garden goes.
No, only competitive with myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Does anybody else have any more questions before I think we're going to wrap this up? We're, what, an
Okay.
hour and 15 in already. So any
Yeah.
other questions coming out there from YouTube land?
Yeah, because we can always come back on. Chris, you can always do another live stream. More people come in. So, yeah.
Right. See how much interest this generates, and if get enough comments in the comment section, we can structure a whole different aspect of hydro based on their questions.
Mm-hmm. Anyone ever dehydrated microgreens? No, I don't think so, because they're basically, the microgreen is, the definition of it is it's the first leaves, the cotyledon, and basically if you dehydrate that, you'll get down to like almost like nothing.
Right.
Yeah,
you would have to have like 100 pounds of microgreens to have a sufficient enough to even be edible by the time it's dry.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's literally at that stage with the really fine stem, and like you were saying, the cotyledons, which are the food source for the sprout itself until it develops its true leaves. It's like 92% water at that point.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, so yeah, drying it out. Yeah, I want to dry microgreens out. And if you grow your own, it's a little cheaper. At the store, it's like crazy expensive because it's like a superfood. So you're talking like for a little pint or half pint of them, like $8-9.
Mm-hmm. I've never thought about dehydrating microgreens to use as a seasoning, but that just came into my head with the radishes, how they have that tangy zip to them. You probably could make a seasoning out of it, technically.
Yeah, the spicy ones like that.
If you try it, I would be interested in hearing how it works out, though, and what it tastes like.
Yeah. Harm said they have a problem with snails too. Yeah, they're a pain. But
snails, just put a like a tuna can with a little bit of beer and sugar in the bottom of it, about halfway full.
Yeah, that's what he said.
They'll crawl up into it and they'll get drunk and drown. Oh, that's what you said. I guess I should have read the whole thing.
But yeah, that's one thing too, is with the hydroponics and the downspout putting it up, I don't get as much problems as when I grew right down on the ground.
Right. Got one more here.
Okay.
It'll pop up. Struggle with anxiety. It seems growing can be very stress relieving. It really is. When garden starts popping in the summer and things are just blooming and alive, like we literally spend probably 75% of our day in the garden, just because it's just awesome to be out there with all the plants, the life. You can graze on all the foods you're growing. Half the time when we go out there, get something for lunch or something like that, we're full by the time we come in because we were grazing on everything in the garden while we were out there.
Yeah, exactly. I think who I said some PTSD groups are starting group gardens for therapy. That's awesome.
Right, that's good.
Yeah, that's I love good. That. A drunk snail would not stagger.
Too much. Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So that gets back into, yeah, I'm hoping people get more into the community gardens. Some places we're making it where it's not easy to set them up, and I hope that everybody could get back to that. And hell, if everybody just grows a little of their own food, like I said, it's fun, it's empowering. Right. There's nothing like it. So if you haven't done it before, give it a try.
And it's better food, it's more nutrient dense food, and and there's just that satisfaction of knowing you brought this little seed into fruition and now you get to eat it.
Yeah, I think it makes you think about like our forefathers and pioneers and people way back, that you grow the food, and if you let it go to seed and you save your seed, and like the next year you're
Right.
planting some more, and you're kind of going through the motions of what they actually did, that's what they depended on way back then. That that's also another, interesting aspect, instead of like going out to the store every year and buying a plant or buying seeds,
Right.
to actually save and see what they went through.
Right, and that's what we try to do out here too, is to save as much seed as possible. Also, sometimes we just leave stuff in the garden and let it go to seed out there, and just let volunteers come up. Like
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now,
that's
we've
cool.
got probably like 200 black seeded Simpson plants coming up, because our plants last year they seeded out, and it's everywhere now.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. I love that lettuce.
Yeah, it's a good one. Gets a little bitter though when it starts to bolt and gets a little milky, but I mean, even then it's still good, because it's almost like its flavors changed in a different way. So when you kind of getting tired of black seeded Simpson when it's immature, it has a slightly different flavor when it bolts out when it gets older.
Yeah. And you know what? When you're growing your own, and if you're depending on it too, that your pickiness kind of goes down. Your pickiness level goes down a little bit. We're used to going to the store and
Right.
just buying stuff. But if you put your blood, sweat, and tears in doing something for months, you're like, that's not that bad. I've eaten, stuff that I probably would have went to the store and complained about. But since I grew it, and I try to get as much out of it. So I'm not
Right.
quite as picky with my own stuff. And that different flavor too is something. I mean, that's not, you're experiencing a lot of different things with it too. Let's see, where you order
My
seeds.
personal recommendation for seeds, and then I don't know if you've checked out his channel, but I really like Am I Gardener on YouTube, and he has a website and he sells seeds, a crazy amount of varieties, and even some hard to find ones, and everything he sells is 99 cents a packet.
Wow, really? I didn't know that. Now, but see, I haven't watched anybody like recently. I used to watch them. I have to check that out. And Harm said he's going to sleep. He's going to have a run in 6 hours. So appreciate you stopping in.
Yeah, Harm, thank you. Hope you come around next time as well. All right.
All right.
Last dash. Does anyone else have anything on the table before we call it?
Cool deal. And everybody, make sure you're subscribed to Chris here and get your notifications turned on, so that when he goes live again, y'all know about it, and tell your friends, bring everybody in. We'll get everybody growing.
Everyone on my side, make sure you subscribe to Mike. Keep on growing, and check out his videos on DIY hydroponics. It's super simple, super cheap, and if you're looking into getting started and you don't have the space to grow, you can get one of his systems or build one of his systems and grow right on your balcony. So
Cool deal. Cool. Appreciate it, Chris.
You go over there, subscribe, and check them out. So with that, well, thanks for coming on, Mike. I really appreciate it, and I hope everyone enjoyed and everyone learned something from this. And like I said before, if we get enough comments down in there that generate interest to, get more in-depth or specific on, types of plants, or, really, really nitty-gritty setup, let me know in the comments, and we'll try to set something up again.
Awesome. Cool.
And with that, any last words there, Mike?
No, just good night. Thank you, everybody. Harm, who took off. My wife's there. Anonymous said he sub. Thank you. And anybody has any questions, we're happy to help everyone. We want to help out as many people as we can. So, don't be shy.
Exactly. I want more people to grow their own food as quickly as possible too.
Yeah. Cool. So live to inspire and keep on growing.
Right. Good night, everybody. Thank you.